Hello, everyone, and welcome to Answer the Call. This week was an interesting week. Drama, I guess, resurfaced from something like 4 years ago about ship names needing to be unique in Star Citizen. And by unique, I mean completely unique. There can only be one name for one ship in the game, but that is unique per ship hull. So, there can only be one 890 jump named the Gatsby or something like that, and there can only be one Aurora LN named the Dumpers Depot or something, right? So I noticed a lot of people, specifically a guest that we had on a couple weeks ago, Astropub, just like absolutely raging about this. And I don't really see where it's coming from necessarily. It just might be a personal opinion that I don't think your ship names matter as much because you have so many ships, right? So how many unique names can you come up with, and how much meaning will they really have? That's one thing. For me, the next thing is, I think it's really important to have unique ship names because of the fact that, like, let's use a PvP example. If everybody in the PvP engagement that you were with was named Bob, it would be very difficult to call out targets. The other thing is this game is trying to emulate a lot of the quote-unquote realism from the sci-fi universes that we all experience and try to encompass within the game. And I think that has both a positive and a negative situation with the ship naming uniqueness, in the sense that in every sci-fi drama that we watch, it's when there's contact made between ships, it is made between the ship names. So you contact the Rocinante, you contact the Millennium Falcon, you contact whoever, right? But also, I think players want those names for their ships in the game. So I understand where that's kind of coming from. The big argument here is that there's going to be leet speak in names and all that stuff. How is that different than what we have now, right? What we have now in game is that your username is what we see in game. There's some leet speak in that. I've never heard anyone complain about it. It is just how you target people. I think the only people that this severely affects negatively is a very small section of the community, and that's the RP community, and that would be it. So that's kind of where I stand on this issue. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I like the idea of whatever immersion it does fill in with the fact that you're contacting the ships now instead of the player, and a scan being done. You will see which players are in that ship, right? I think it will help for things like PvP, bounty hunting, a whole number of things. It will make mechanics deeper. The fact that your ship has an ID number, there's all sorts of things. There were a lot of good arguments against and for the direction that CIG went in. The last thing that I will say here is the only reason any of you guys are complaining about this, or the fact that we're even discussing it, is because there is nothing to do in the game. If there was a situation in Star Citizen where you had more things to do in the game than you had time, you would not be spending any of your time thinking about what your ship name is. Nobody would care. It would not matter. That is the biggest element here, is that the game just doesn't exist, and that's the only reason people are mad about it. But before we go on to callers, there's a little enterprise at the bottom right of your screen. The reason that is there is because we recently did a sponsorship opportunity with Star Trek Fleet Command. So if you're watching on Twitch, you could type !star in chat. If you're watching on YouTube, there will be a link below. That link will bring you to a QR code. You can sign up and try Star Trek Fleet Command and try the game out. It'll take 5 minutes of your time to count towards this goal. All you have to do is hit level 2, and it is a great way to support me. The people that are working with me on this are really curious on how our YouTube audience will approach this. It was wildly successful on Twitch. We are halfway towards our goal of 200 people. There's plenty of you guys that watch the YouTube channel. Hopefully you guys have 5 minutes of your time to try and help support me. And yeah, Thank you very much. But without further ado, we're going to jump into our first caller, who is a very regular caller. His name is Henrik. Henrik, can you hear me, buddy?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, perfect. I hear you loud and clear. So what are your thoughts on this whole thing?
Uh, my thoughts is why shouldn't we rename these ships the same as everyone else? Mostly,
Are you like arguing my if I'm in a PvP engagement and everybody's named Bob, why can't we do
then you're
that?
looking at then yeah. Why shouldn't you be able to do that? Then because afterwards you're just looking at the ID number, which should probably be written underneath it, which will say should be unique.
But then then you're sifting through numbers to try to figure out who's who. Isn't the point of the name to make it more simple? Like, isn't the point of having the name is that because that's what you're engaging with, that's what you're dealing with instead of the ID number? The ID number is more for like a pencil pusher somewhere at a landing zone.
Yeah, you can maybe talk about that, but if you want to make it confusing combat scenario, you're just making your name with eyes with either spacing or small or big eyes between them.
Sure. Like, obviously, there's going to be workarounds to get the name that you want. And I think that that's the argument for a lot of the people who are like, there's going to be Leet Speak Millennium Falcons all over the place, things like that, right?
Yeah, why shouldn't they be allowed to that?
Yeah.
To do that?
I mean, you could also go like I don't normally read chat, but this is a good one. I've actually seen these names for usernames in game where they have like barcode looking names, right? Where like capital L's and lower like it's just like lines that go up and down. I've seen that before. So
Yeah, I've seen that before as well.
yeah, I mean, but that's a pretty unique name that sticks out. I don't know. It's one of those things where, yeah, I'm just. I just don't think the name is that huge of a deal, but that's just me.
I don't think it is, and that is why I think the names you shouldn't be you should be able to name the or the same as your Aurora or OLM.
Yeah. I don't get it. I mean, like, Astropub is literally losing his mind on Twitter about this. And I was like, is it that big of a deal? I just don't think it's that big of a deal. Also, because we have so many ships, I don't think that we're going to. All right, I'll put it this way.
Well,
This is crazy and people are gonna hate this idea. I don't even like this idea. But if you're gonna make ship names unique and you're gonna make people like want to really care about the ship names, you're gonna want to create the same scenario with ships that they are creating with characters with Death of a Spaceman.
yeah. Or you should be able to steal the ship name with a red box or something from the ship.
Maybe I think that would create lots of trolls and people would cry and that would be rough.
Yeah,
But yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
But also, if they putting that in, then they should definitely say after a week this name hasn't been online, the name is available in the pool again.
Yes. So there was, and this gives us a good opportunity to bring this up, Henrik. I think the only issue that I have there was a Origin 600i ship naming FAQ. So for the live stream, I'm posting that in Twitch chat right now, and for YouTube, I'll post it in the link below. If I remember, I always forget to do that. I'm gonna bring this up for you guys so you could see it. Is does CIG plan to recycle inactive names? And they said no. There are no current plans to recycle claim names that go unused. I think that's my only issue with this whole thing. And if you want to know how they're doing the ship naming thing, this post was made in 2017, August 25th, 2017. When I saw this, I was like, oh, this is how they want to do names. Okay, cool. For me, the big thing is that they want. Yes, that's right. There's they want to sell things, right? And for me, I don't have as much of an issue with them selling names as I do with them selling the ship in the first place.
I
So,
don't have
yeah.
I don't have any problem with them selling names, but I don't think people should be forced into naming their name with some letters, or not letters, but numbers to get around the one name thing. Maybe
Yeah.
they could do it the same as we have done with the cars, mostly, where you can have an unique name for your ID.
Yeah, everybody has a VIN number, and then you
Yeah,
have you can name your car if you want, but I don't think people name their cars. I don't call on the
yeah.
highway to a different car and be like, oh, hello, Jalopy, Jalopy 47. What's up? So I don't know, it's weird. But there was an argument
Yeah.
made by somebody in Twitch chat before we started this, and I do want to bring this up because this is a great argument for the other side. Uh, just in case nobody else is planning on bringing it up, it was from Brandon BRB in chat. He says that people don't have the money to buy ships. So what this naming scheme does is it completely robs the player who starts with the Aurora and then makes his way to the 890 jump to be able to name his 890 jump. That is the single best argument against the naming system that CIG has in place right now. And there's no other argument that can be made for me other than that to get me to flip. And that is very close to getting me to flip.
I don't have any argument against that statement either. It is a really good argument.
It is a really good argument, yeah.
And
it's
also,
just, there's too much based on the website, but at the same time, if they find opportunities to sell things that aren't ships that don't affect the game, I want them to do it. But the way they've tied this in is they've tied it in with selling ships. I would love like a name change, a name grabbing mechanic on the website rather than a ship buying one. But that's me.
Yeah, that could be a way to go with this thing.
Sure.
Where you're able to write up for your name, or maybe you can be in a queue. You are number 600 or something for this specific name.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing
also,
I did forget to say before you keep going, Henrik, I meant to do this in the intro, is today is my birthday, and my wife's birthday is going to be in a couple days. So I have to keep things really short today because of the I have a commitment after this. Like, we're going to eat dinner with my mother-in-law who lives next door, or eat lunch. So, yeah. So if I keep the callers kind of short, that's why. Go ahead, Henrik.
So happy birthday, first of all.
Oh, thank you.
But what was it? I just got thrown off by that. It was about...
we were talking about how the player who just plays the game but only starts with an Aurora kind of gets the whole naming thing taken away from him completely. But what about somebody who spends a lot of money? Do they deserve to be first in line? They already skipped the line.
Yeah. And if they spend that money, that shouldn't be... Their reason for spending the money should be helping the game development, not get any benefit from it.
Yeah. Exactly, Henrik.
Yeah.
And I think we've gotten away from that.
Yeah. One other problem I see with this one is name bidding on black markets or something like that, where people is saying, I have this ship, this name, come and bid on it in real life money. Yeah. And I don't think they should be able to profit from that. Just to be able to more or less rewrite the bots from the NVIDIA cards to Star Citizen names.
Yeah. It's sad, but at the same time, I don't know. Like, how does this affect you personally? I would say, like, I feel like you're making an argument for like the logic behind this stuff. How do you feel about it as a person and as a Star Citizen backer? Like, do you have names already planned for your ships? Right, like exactly. And I feel like that's a majority of the people. I think Astropub did do a poll on his Twitter, and I think 64% of people want unique names. But the whole thing is as a backer, like, how many of you have a list of all the names that you're going to name your ships? I feel like it's very few people. And I feel like the argument for the uniqueness of names in game is stronger than a lot of the counter arguments. Really, everything other than Brandon's.
Yeah, but as I said, I couldn't care less. I don't think I will ever name my ship. I would just go with the ID they give me at the start.
Yeah. You're just going to leave the number ID?
Yes.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are going to do that. I I think a lot of people are going to do that. I'm going to name my ships just to troll because I don't care and it'll be fun. Like, I find every opportunity to have fun and make a joke wherever I can. And
You were blown up by the boomer.
yeah, exactly. Like something like that. Now that I'm super old, all my ships will be Boomer 1, Boomer 2. But yeah, Henrik, just because we have to keep it short, is there anything else you want to add before we let you go?
I don't think so.
Yeah. I think you represent most of the community, though, that it's like, whatever, who cares? But as per usual, Spectrum, Reddit, and some people just get really worked up about things, and I really feel like it's because the game is boring. Like, I think that is the main problem, right? Is the game's just too boring and you don't have anything else to think of.
Need better servers.
Yes, sir. Oh, sorry, Henrik, I knocked you out. But let me say goodbye to you. Henrik, have a good one, and thank you for calling in, man. I appreciate it.
Have a good rest of your day.
You too. All right, so I was not ready for the next caller because I was pretty engaged with Henrik there. So let's get this ready. Our next caller is going to be Golden Triangles. So let me just put that up, and then we'll bring them in. But yeah, while I do that, I'm really just like kind of whatever about the whole thing, and I feel like a lot of other people are, and I think we're just fighting this because we're bored. You know? I feel like we're just fighting it because we're bored. And I don't really see anything other than that. But all right, let's bring in Golden Triangles. Golden, how you doing? Can you hear me okay?
I can. Hi, Mike. Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. So what do you think about everything? And, you know, any points that Henrik may have made, you can reply to as well.
Well, I'm on the opinion of I think that anybody should be able to name their ship anything that they want because each ship is already going to have a unique serial number. And yes, you've brought up the point about everybody calling their ship Bob for a tactical advantage, but I believe that's going to be a very edge case.
Of course. I think that's edge casey, as well as the Millennium Falcon with Leet Speak is edge casey. Because how many people are going to name their ship the Millennium Falcon, and how many of them are going to use Leet Speak when they do it? I don't know. It's just kind of weird. How do you feel in general? Do you have ship names picked out? Like, what are your personal feelings about the way CIG is handling ship names?
So personally, yes, I am one of those people who had a majority of their ships already picked out, and I would be more than happy to share them with you. However, now, if I do that, it's a possibility that they would just get nabbed up just to troll me. So I will not be sharing my names currently.
Fair enough. But yeah, I mean, it's good to hear that side too, because I just don't. It's just not something I'm interested in. And it's not part of it. Right. But let me ask you why it's important. Because for me, it's important to be empathetic for people who see the game differently than I do, and I'd like to dive a little deeper into the why.
So for me, it's important to me because, well, of course you're going to have people who call Enterprise or use Leet Speak to get around the restriction. I would much rather see like a handful of ships that all say Enterprise rather than a handful of ships that are using Leet Speak to get around the restriction. That's just my personal preference. And I believe that this all goes down to like fear of missing out, which is a tactic in games that I just really disagree with on a fundamental level.
But you're a Star Citizen fan.
That is correct. I can see the irony.
And you've purchased multiple ships because of fear of missing out.
I have. That is absolutely correct, because we know if we don't purchase the ships now, they get more expensive later.
Mm-hmm. But you also know that if you just play the game, you can buy them.
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay. I mean, I have to make that point there. Like, not to put you down, but I have to make that one.
No, it's a completely fair point, which I was also... So, on Spectrum, there was a post that said, we want an Infamous player to be known as the Emerald Dragon rather than ESX64, a bunch of numbers. It's like, okay, I can understand that. You want the ship to become infamous. However, if people own multiple ships, how are they going to name all of their ships the exact same?
Yeah.
Because if someone is being infamous, how are they going to earn that reputation by, oh, well, today I don't really feel like flying X ship. I want to fly Y ship, but it has a different name because it's already been taken by someone else.
Yeah, and that was from Zyloh on Spectrum earlier this week, and I'll bring that up here. Yeah, the whole thing, too, is what if that's out of the meta? Like, if that really amazing ship that has killed so many people falls completely out of the meta, gets nerfed to the ground, then what? Like, that is a very it's a cop-out answer to some extent to me. I don't want to use it that way because I don't feel it's an actual cop-out answer. I think it's how they want the game to work, but I don't think it is a way the video game can work, right? There's so many factors that come into play than the ship and the pilot who's flying the ship on whether or not that thing is going to be a cold-blooded killer, right? I fought against a Vanguard Sentinel today, and he was a good pilot, but he was fighting off 15 people because there's a lot of other factors that are coming into play on whether or not we can kill that player, right? And the ship is not going to be infamous in many cases, exactly. I don't think. You know?
And, like, what if someone isn't really focused on combat? Like, what if someone is very content with their prospector and all they want to do is mine? Are they going to be at famous or infamous? Oh, it's that very rare prospector with XYZ name. It's like, no, that's probably not going to happen. So why put the restriction in the first place?
Yeah, it seems like you're only putting the restriction in for one scenario in a game that has many, many scenarios. That's a fair argument. Because, like, I mean, maybe there will be famous miners that are very good, and but I think that's going to fall more for the person rather than the ship in that case, whereas the ship is more of a combat-focused scenario, right, when it comes to the name?
Absolutely. Like with most sci-fi, where it's Star Trek or Star Wars, you have the famous ship because they are the protagonist, where we're in a video game, all of us are the protagonist, or in some cases, the antagonist.
Sure.
So it's like, you're only going to be limited by 32 characters for your ship. How many meaningful combinations are there until they just run out?
I get what you're saying there, but there's a lot of screen names that people have gotten creative with over the years, and yeah. I think that yes, you get leet speak sometimes, but I think you also get creative people, great names. And I don't know. I'm just that's an argument where it's hard to not agree with, but it's also hard to disagree with, right? Because of course there's going to be scenarios where people use numbers and it gets a little weird.
Right, but I was just saying, like, we all have unique serial numbers already to begin with. Like the Enterprise that's on your screen right there. Yes, it's called the Enterprise, but it has a serial number 1701. Yes, it is the Enterprise, but I'm sure in the entirety of Star Trek, it is not the only Enterprise.
No, of course. There's been many iterations of it, right?
Right, and I'm sure like some well, probably not the Cardassians, but there's some little trading outpost that's calling his little putt-putt shuttle probably the Enterprise and has no idea of the 1701 Enterprise. It just happens to have the same name. It's just we never appear it on the screen because the world of Star Trek is so massive. Surely there's other ships called Enterprise, but it's not 1701.
Gotcha. Yeah, it makes sense. From a logical, like, real-world standpoint, but everyone's screen name in game is unique, right? And that's how we identify.
Absolutely.
And if they decide that they want to shift from identifying from usernames to identifying via ship names when in ship combat or any sort of engagement with ships, then what's the direction that we go in? Is it better to have the Enterprise 1701, or is it better to have unique ones? And I think it comes down to everyone's personal preference for sure in this scenario, but
Yeah.
I think mine definitely leads towards unique names because of the fact that I think unique usernames are important for many reasons, and if this is the direction that they want to go in, where your username won't be displayed when you're in a ship, then it has to be unique.
Right, but again, that also goes to, well, who's flying the ship? If it's a different person, if you have multiple ships, then all of the names have to be different because they've been arbitrarily taken up. There's not really any kind of cohesion.
Sure. That's
Which,
fair.
I mean, I'm not calling my ships all the same thing. I have a different name for every ship that I had planned for. Now, whether I get them or not, we'll have to find out.
Yeah.
But I did have, and none of my names are references to Star Trek or Star Wars.
Okay. Yeah. We'll see. I mean, that's one of the things is like, we'll see how bad this system is when it actually gets implemented. And that's the bad thing about it is everyone, this is a lot of speculation on how it will work and not a lot of how it is.
Right.
You know?
Like, it might be unique doesn't always necessarily mean motivational or you have an attachment to it. Like if I wanted, just for an example, I'm just spitballing, if I wanted to name a ship that my great grandfather served on in the military, and it's a very, very common name, but I can't use it because it is a very common name. I mean, with the system that they have in place now, I would be forced to use leet speak to get around it or add some sort of prefix or suffix to it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was one of the arguments I think we were talking about before we started the actual podcast today, was that putting the suffix or the prefix is a really good way of getting what you want, and it's that creates a almost infinite number of possibilities in terms of what you want, and then there's a lot of orgs in game, prefixes with orgs, you can create the ship name that you want and all that stuff, so I don't know. I think that's like a good workaround, and that works in game as well as works within the guise of I would like to name my ship the way I would like to name my ship.
Right. But I believe, this is just my personal preference, is that ship names are not going to be famous or as infamous as the player who pilots them. That's
Agreed.
Just my thought.
You're 100% there. And that's where CIG gets this totally wrong, is it's always going to be the pilot, not the ship.
Yeah, who's more famous, Kirk and Picard or the Enterprise? Who's more famous, Han Solo or the Millennium Falcon? The machine or the pilot, which is greater?
Yeah. 100%. I mean, the Razorback's pretty famous, but yeah. I don't know. It's a good point though, and that's where I think CIG is disconnected as always when it comes to the decisions that they make and how the game will work, because they don't play the game enough to know how we interact with it, I feel like, and I think this is just another example of that, is that it will what's going to happen is you're going to let's use any combat ship. Let's use the Anvil Arrow as an example because it's a pretty popular ship these days. You come across an Anvil Arrow. What's the first thing you're probably going to do? You're probably going to scan it and see who the pilot is. Because guess what?
Absolutely.
That pilot probably has 3 Anvil Arrows with all different names, and he's going to use those different names to cover who is flying it to, create scenarios where people might actually engage with him or something like that. So, yeah. I think it's always going to be the pilot that's more prominent in that. But, Golden, since we are short on time, any quick additions that you want to make before we go to some hashtags from Twitter?
Just one thing. You made an earlier point about CIG selling ship names, like how we have to pay an additional fee if we want to change our in-game handle, which I also fully support. But the potential for that to be profitable is multiplied if there's no restrictions. If you want to change your name and someone else has the same name, that's perfectly fine. You just pay a little bit of money to CIG. You can name your ship whatever you want. You can rename it multiple times as long as you keep paying money.
I don't have much to add to that. It's one of those things where it can get bad, but like how many things are we going to monetize? But for me, I'm always more okay with the solutions for monetization when they aren't part of spaceships, which are literally the most important thing in the game. So,
right.
Yeah.
I made a poll, and I was very surprised that it's pretty much split down the middle, whether people support it or not. So I was very surprised for that. But anyway, I'll let you go.
Yeah, no problem, Golden. Thank you so much for calling, man. I appreciate it.
Take care.
Later, bud. All right, before we go to our next caller, we have some hashtags from Twitter. So hashtag ATC, if you want to call in. We'll probably only do one more of these, so we'll go through a couple of them here. This one is from Dean or Archangel from Discord and Twitch chat. He says, what about a happy medium of allowing a ship name to be tied to a registered system? This is what I was thinking. That will grow as new systems come online. Example, Millennium Falcon Stanton, or Pyro designation in front or after for the Millennium Falcon registered in Pyro. I think that that's a really good idea, and that's what I was thinking too. Like, ships get registered to certain countries, and maybe you can have unique names based on their registration. So if you know that a new system came online or whatever, you can go to that one and address that. But all right, let's quickly switch scenes so I can bring up the next tweet here, and you guys don't see all of my notifications. All right, this one is from Rainwalker, and he says, shouldn't I be able to name myself after someone else's ship as a smuggling or pirating tactic to infiltrate an org or smuggle goods to abandon merchantmen? Or Kraken using existing identity and name that other ship owners trust? It will make piracy a more strategic gameplay loop. I don't know. I think that kind of stuff is just based off of, gaining their trust in general, right? In any sort of way. But yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming from, and that's pretty good. But we'll look at one more real quick. So let's go here. This is a pretty good one. This one is from Bucko Baklava. He said, haven't you gone to a website with silly restrictions about passwords? It's awful. That's true. That's true as well. But at the same time, the restrictions are just really 32 characters when it comes to this, right? And not being a jerk. So, yeah. I don't know. But all right, let's set up our next caller here. But yeah, I don't know, man. The big thing is, I'm weird. I just don't care. But maybe I'm just weird. I care about the game and the way it plays. I don't care what the name of my ship is. And I feel like Golden, that there's going to be some people who care. And that's fine and great. But I think that the most important thing is, if you're going to make this decision, understand how it affects the game and how it will work, rather than maybe individuals. But I don't know. All right, we got our next caller, though, and his name, or her name, is Beard. Beard, welcome.
Hey, man. Happy birthday.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate it. So what do you want to add to the conversation or reply to from some other of the calls?
I don't think there's much. I would just add this. I'm definitely for unique ship names for hulls, because I think you touched on it earlier, but it definitely adds an economy to the game, I feel like. And I definitely see that with other MMOs.
Explain how some other MMOs have done it.
I'll give you a really good example. So I play Classic WoW. I've been playing that since it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And in that game, when someone, say you go blacksmithing, when you make gear, your character name shows up at the bottom of that gear, and you can give it to other people or whatnot, sell it.
UO did this too, yeah.
And someone on my server got the name Dad, just D-A-D, nothing else. And because he has that name, the gear he makes, people prefer to get from him as opposed to other people. Because when you think about it, would you rather have your gear with the name made by Dad?
Yeah.
Or would you rather have it made by XX Weed Smoker XX?
I mean, me personally, it would probably be the XX Weed Smoker guy, but yeah. I know what you mean, though. Like, in Ultima Online, what people used to do is they would name themselves Versace, or if they were a tailor, or like something like that, right? And that's what your clothing would be made from. And so, yeah, it would be the same clothing that everyone else makes, but it has that unique name to it, and that people would want to buy that. So, yeah, it made sense. That's interesting. That assumes that there's crafting, though, but yeah.
Well, but in Star Citizen's case, it would be,
yes.
This guy's trying to sell me his ship, but someone else is trying to sell me the same ship, but that other ship, maybe it's just named, or maybe it's a Retaliator and it's named like Breacher, or something like really themed to Retaliator.
Sure.
I think there's an economy there that could be worked out.
Yeah, I mean, that's what, yeah, I think you're referencing what I talked about before we started, right? Was where people could purchase ships, name them good names, sit on them, and sell them for in-game money. I think the problem is they'll sell them for out-of-game money as well, but yeah.
They'll definitely sell them for, like, out-of-game money. And,
yeah.
like, they'll do that in April for, like, these ship names.
Sure.
I think, on the flip side, just to maybe put in some other viewpoints, I think there is a definite concern that some ships' names will be easier to get than others, depending on the ship hull you have. Like, I could see it being very hard, because there are no servers in Star Citizen, or at least in the traditional MMO sense. If you're trying to get a specific name for Aurora, I could imagine that's going to be a lot harder, than getting a ship name for, like, the Transport Argo. If you got that, you could probably name that whatever you want. Yeah,
that's a good point as well. Or even the more expensive ships, right? That no matter what and how many people have them, the likelihood of you running out of names is unlikely, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how hard it is to get certain ship names. Because again, there are no traditional servers like other MMOs, where you have these name pools.
Are you planning on doing this? Naming ships, really? Like, is this something you were... I mean, people are dying on this hill. Like, this was... If they don't allow me to name my ship, I will never play Star Citizen again. I'm just like, what is this?
It's something I definitely thought of, but I mean...
Yeah.
If I can't get my ship name... another big point I don't think anyone else has mentioned is that it's a 32 character limit. So there's a lot of wiggle room. I'll just make it, or have to come up with a different name.
Yeah, get creative, but getting creative doesn't necessarily mean leet speak. Like, in the same case that players don't want to look at the leet speak for the name, I don't think players want to name their names with leet speak if they don't have to.
Yeah, it's
It goes
like
both
for me.
ways.
I just want a unique name that doesn't look stupid.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, going back to the classic WoW analogy, you see people all the time who like every single character, their name is accented because they really wanted one specific name.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's gonna be you're not gonna be able to get around that in Star Citizen.
Yeah. That's fine. That's fine. That's fair. Is there anything else you want to add though to the call before we let you go? Is there any other points you wanted to make?
No, I think that's it. The economy thing's definitely the biggest for me.
Yeah. And I think you're onto something there, and I don't have that big of an issue with it. Where I think some people would. It's like, oh God, they're selling everything, but in this case, I think it gives an opportunity for players to sell things.
Yeah, maybe after March I'll come back in here and like I'll not be able to get any ship name for my ship.
I get.
Like,
yeah,
this is a horrible system.
Exactly. Like, I don't think we'll know how the system works until it gets implemented, and we won't know how bad it is until it gets implemented. But yeah, we'll have to see. We might all just have ID names. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe.
All right, man. We'll let you go though, Beard. I appreciate your call and thank you so much. We have a lot of callers I haven't seen on the show before. I'm pretty sure your first time, and same with Golden.
Oh yeah. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it. All right. Before we go, I'll just make another call to action about the Star Trek thing. If you guys are seeing the Enterprise here on the screen, it is just because we have a possible new goal for our Star Trek Enterprise sponsorship. So the podcast was sponsored by them, and all you have to do is type, if you're watching on Twitch live, !star in chat. There'll be a link there that'll bring up a QR code so you can download the game using that, and it kind of links you to me. All you have to do is spend 5 minutes and get to level 2 in game. It's super, super simple, and you'll count towards this goal, and it supports me greatly. So I do appreciate it. If you are watching on YouTube, that same link will be down below in the description, and you can do the same thing. It's 5 minutes of your time. It's my birthday. Give me a nice birthday present. That's all I'll have to say for that. Take 5 minutes of your time for me, and I would really appreciate it. All right, but with that said, let's go to our next caller, and their name is Cleared Direct. Cleared, what's up? How you doing?
Hey, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. So, what are your thoughts on all this? Lots of upset people.
Yeah. So
Are you one of them?
No, actually. For the longest time, well, when I first found out about the whole idea of like ship naming, I was just like, oh, that's kind of a neat feature. That's cool.
Sure.
And that was about it.
Same.
Then I come to find out, oh, they're going to be unique. So what I'm kind of confused about with CIG's decision making on it is it actually seems kind of half-assed to me.
Sure. As most
the
things.
idea of either
but the reason I'll tell you this is the reason they seem half-assed is it's very hard. I've noticed more and more when it comes to games, it's very difficult to recognize every edge case. Like, look at the Mercury Star Runner. They only have one entrance and exit, and they just totally escape them.
Yeah,
it happens.
And then after the fact, they're just like, "Oops, it was a bit of an oversight." Yeah,
yeah, just a bit. Still a great ship, bit. Right? But it was
it's awesome. But yeah, So the way I see it is like, as far as it being half-assed is like, well, if you want unique names, they should be entirely unique, regardless of whether or not it's limited to a certain hull. And the other side of it is, in the real world, you can go to Walmart and buy a paddle boat and with a sticker and put whatever name you want on it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I definitely see both sides of that argument. But I don't know. Like I said, it just kind of seems a little bit half-assed.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the argument was a little bit weak as well, but I think it just came down to it was they wanted to, like, from what Zyloh said, and I'll bring that back up on screen. And to be honest, do you mind if I just read it out loud while we have you on the call?
No, yeah, go for it.
Okay. So he said, hi all, we've been monitoring feedback closely, including the direct messages we've received, both from the community and internally at CIG. We have many avid and passionate Star Citizens on staff, of course, so the team gets plenty of internal feedback as well. We've seen many loved proposed naming functionality, but also many who don't. With this one, it's clear that either route is going to be met with resistance of some kind. Ultimately, the path of unique per whole naming was chosen as our preference. So basically what they're saying here, and the whole point of his post is to say, this is the way we want to do it, deal with it.
Yeah.
Right? And it's in a really like kind way of saying that. And then they go into what I think Beard or Golden mentioned about the we want to have a legendary ship and be recognized in the verse. Like, yeah, good luck with that. That's not happening.
That's not going to happen.
It's always going to be players that are recognized. And at this stage of development, we're afraid to try, test, and explore different avenues. And as always, we see the process of all feedback from our community. I mean, just how do you test this? Like, do you give everybody the opportunity to get the name they want, and when the guy gets his name, he's super excited, and then you take it away from him, and then the next time he doesn't, like, I don't know. It's something you can't test, you just have to run with.
I don't see a way of really iterating on it without, you're going to give somebody, the candy they want and then immediately take it away from them.
Yep. It's tough. Yeah, and I somebody in chat said, and by we wanted it that way, it was pretty much probably CR wanted it that way because he was watching The Expanse or something.
Potentially, yeah. I can see that.
Yeah. But
so, I don't know. I know one thing people were mentioning was, okay, well, we have, unique serial numbers to differentiate between ships. So that kind of goes in the way of arguing against ship names being unique. And in my eyes, that does kind of make sense as well. So I have a background in aviation, so we identify airplanes by their registration, their tail number.
Okay.
And that's generally the call sign that you'd end up using on the radios, unless it's some kind of like a company call sign.
Sure.
So I don't know, because then that goes into how do you refer to, or how do you hail, whoever's operating that ship, is you identify them by the ship.
Yeah, you'll hail, hey, Sweaty Gamer 404, how you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
I see you have lots of Hadanite inside that Grey Cat rock inside your ship. Whatever, but
yeah.
You can also scan the ship and see the
entities
inside, which you can't do in real life. So.
Yeah, exactly. So it's one of those things that a realistic approach would be, identifying by the registration or the serial number, whatever. But I just don't think a lot of people want to do it that way. It seems like one of those things that would overly complicate it for the sake of just complicating it, and that's it.
Yeah, sure. I agree.
Yep.
I got attacked by a cat when you in the middle of your call. I apologize. But yeah, it sounds like you're kind of done. Was there anything else you want to add to it, or were you just done with that point?
No, that's about it.
Yeah. I think we're on the same page there for sure.
Yeah, just kind of indifferent about it. Just it's whatever.
It is what it is.
It could go.
Yeah, I mean, think about this scenario too before we let you go. Is the amount of ships you have now are the ones that you were like willing to purchase for real money and to suffer through a very buggy experience to get. When we're actually playing the MMO, we're going to be getting a lot of spaceships and having to name them, and I think this romanticized feeling of the names of the ships are kind of going to fall off when we're talking like an org that has hundreds of ships or a player that has tens of ships. It kind of does lose that luster from it, I feel like, a bit. And yeah,
even now, if you own multiple ships and you're constantly using multiple ships, it's hard to grow that feeling of attachment to that one particular ship because you're using multiple all the time.
Exactly. And then the other argument I made is, do we really think that sweaty PvPer is only going to be flying one specific ship? Or is it going to be flying
No,
many different ones for many different scenarios? Like, they're literally
exactly.
have been developing over the last year for the fact that, like, choice matters. Not just the choice
Yeah,
in
you're gonna choose the
your
tool that
weapons.
fits the job.
Exactly. So that tool might be a unique spaceship. So thinking that they're going to be this... the ship name is going to be this infamous thing. It just won't be.
No,
That's
I
really
highly doubt that.
romanticized by them, and it's just not reality.
Yeah.
It's not based in any sort of reality. But all right, Clear Direct, we'll let you go. I appreciate you calling.
All
Is
right.
this your first
Happy
time calling
birthday,
as
buddy.
well?
Yeah, first time. I actually really wanted to call last week for that whole PvP discussion, but I was busy with work.
Well, yeah, and it was tough to get any callers in because those boys are great at talking. And I should say, and girl too, Bieber, he was on there. So I think I almost think we should have them on separately at some point to see.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that was like almost the whole point of the show is I would love to have Cutlet on to allow Cutlet to be Cutlet and not feel like he constantly said like, oh, I'm talking too much. Oh, I'm talking too much. I want him to give his time to get his feelings out there, but then not be stepping on the toes of, because that was the whole point of making the show in the first place, was like every other Star Citizen podcast had multiple guests and somebody always ends up talking more, you know?
Yeah, that is a fair point.
Yeah. So, all right, man. We'll let you go. I appreciate you calling. Thank you so much.
Yep. Happy
Later, bud.
birthday, bud. See ya.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, and our next caller is Anton. But Anton's name is spelled with a 4. How do you feel about leet speak, Anton?
Well, that was one of my arguments. I'm mostly against unique names.
Okay.
And one of the reasons is if you play like League of Legends that has millions of players and it's just server-wide, that's EU West.
Okay.
And you have your name gamer tag for years, you can come late, you don't get your name.
Yeah.
And if you fly a common ship, a rover, Mustang, Arrow, whatever, and you start in 5 years, you have a big problem if you want to have a special name.
Yeah. Yeah.
With more listening to other arguments, I think there's a good point and where unique shipment can be important. You won't make a name as a ship as an arrow, but if you are an orc and has a special capital ship that's really good, that can be a unique name that gets a little bit of fame.
Very good point. Very good point. Like a javelin, a ship that's very difficult to kill, that could certainly gain a name in a system or anywhere. Very good point. Because I think we're thinking it within the restrictions of today's Star Citizen.
Yes, and that's at the moment the system is pointless. For right now, almost nobody cares. Yeah, there are a few who want the Enterprise name for the character or whatever you can name the ship at the moment. But a lot of people try the Enterprise at the moment because they fear to lose the name. Yeah. They probably didn't want it, but just to try it out.
Sure.
And I think there is like the real world. Your normal sailor ship, you can have every name you want, but military ships are unique, and so doesn't have military ship, but capital ships like Astropap has a Kraken who is this Astropap and wants the name Astropap, and it would be cool. This one would be unique. That one.
Can I interrupt you for a second though? When you said that military ships have unique names, that's a real world scenario?
For the US.
For the US? Okay. It is. So for the US Navy, that's a real thing.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I didn't know that. That's why I was just trying to ask. Okay.
There are a lot of times in Germany, where I'm from, a lot of times there are the Bundesländer, they have the names from the state's name, and they are also unique as far as I know.
Gotcha.
Perhaps there are examples where it's not, but normally they are, especially the bigger ones.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. I had no idea. Maybe that's something that they could do, where you get a little bit of the best of both worlds. But the thing is every ship has guns in Star Citizen. So can you really label a ship a military ship versus a non-military ship?
I would not military, but the size. Capital ships access is a good point. Where
Okay.
you can only buy a number of Krakens, Javelins, Idrises when there's a sale, and these kind of ships could have a unique name.
I think that's fair. The issue where that does arise though is when the game is live, those restrictions aren't placed on them.
Yes,
but there will be restrictions placed on them based on materials and all that stuff, right?
Yes.
So interesting, very interesting point. I like that point of view, and I think you can, if they can make it work, I think they get the best of both worlds, and they make as many people happy as possible.
Yes, because for common ships, like you said, an arrow pilot, the arrow falls off of matter, he doesn't fly it, or he has like 3 arrows in 3 different systems. Yes, you can name it Bob 1, 2, 3, but perhaps another player calls his ship Bob 4. So is it Bob 4 this player? No, the Moist Noodle would be famous, not the Bob 4.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's always going to be the pilot in that scenario. And I think we were thinking too short-sighted in the fact that we don't really have cap ships in game. I think the closest thing is the 890, but yeah.
Yes. And perhaps a hammerhead at the moment, because at the moment you don't see that many hammerheads. But in 10 years in the future, where we hopefully have a more finished game, we don't know what it looks like, and I think there will be a big problem for common ships and new players, or players like me who has an Aurora and have 70 chips with in-game money.
Yeah.
And,
I think you got an interesting and a correct perspective, and I think 10 years down the line, I think you have a realistic expectation of Star Citizen as well.
I hope so.
And you said you just bought an Aurora and that's it, right?
I bought Vanguard last sale. Just if there is
the overpowered
reset
Vanguard
sometime in the future, I just don't want to start with an Aurora again. But that's the only 2 ships I have with money.
Fair enough, Anton.
And right now I have 19 fleets in my in-game.
Okay, fair enough. I think this is going to be interesting, but I don't think we're going to know until they implement it. I think that's the big thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But all right, buddy, I guess we'll let you go. Thanks for calling in. I appreciate it.
Have a nice birthday.
You too. Oh, well, I guess I don't know if it's his birthday. He said, have a nice birthday. All right, before we go to our next caller, I am going to see. We have one other tweet, so we'll touch on that real quick. It's from Canuck 2099, because Canuck was taken. And he said, I think the argument being built around popular sci-fi names is wrong. The unique names will be affected the everyday mundane names like Weekend Warrior, Daydreamer, Jenny, etc. I'm not a fan, also not a fan of no accents for non-English words. Is that an actual restriction that they made? Didn't they say it was going to be ASCII characters? Are those, does that remove things like Enyes and other non English characters? Because we obviously have a global audience that has purchased Star Citizen. I think that would be really weird to do something like that, right? So, yeah, I mean, I didn't see that restriction anywhere. But yeah, that would be weird. So I don't know. I'm kind of taking a look at Twitch chat to see if they say anything, but I didn't see them make that restriction anywhere. So That one is kind of odd. But all right, we got 2 more callers left, and I think we're going to be able to get them both in. Our next caller is Woodsy. So let me get his name up on the screen. Woodsy. There we go. All right, and let's bring him in. Woodsy, can you hear me?
I can. How's it going?
All right. I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing okay. I think this is a really interesting conflict we have here.
Sure.
Personally, I mean, I think that we've beaten the main points dead horse enough,
Sure.
I guess. The thing that I'm really curious of what you think of is, and you know, stop me if you think this is too spicy of a topic.
All right, I will.
But, I tend to kind of, I guess at this point, anticipate the marketing. Like it seems like the balancing team works just as much in the marketing of the game than the actual balancing of the mechanics. I feel like this is a marketing ploy. I mean, honestly,
100%.
I think that because we're talking about FOMO, right? Because you know you're like, you know what, I want a carrick. That is my goal. You know, like I want, this is the ship that I want to grind for. This is the ship that I want to eventually have. But if I don't get it right now, I'm not going to be able to name this thing what I want to name it. And so I guess I got to take out a loan, you know, like, I feel like that's kind of, in a way, disingenuous, in my opinion. Like why are they doing this right now? Why not do this?
Because they need the money now. They don't need it as much when the game's released.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. It's just, you know, we just had a free fly. You know, like how much marketing do you really need? Like I don't know. That's just, I don't know. That's kind of where my brain kind of just drifted when I first started hearing about this. I was like, okay.
Don't think I don't agree with you. Don't think I disagree with you, because I think the marketing team tends to be on the way more predatory side than I'd like to see a game that I am associated with or play.
Right.
But I think the nature of the predator comes from a logical and a reasonable place. If we look at Star Citizen and we look at why we love it, it's extremely ambitious. And if you think that, you know, the amount of money that they have, my favorite thing is whenever there's a bug or there's a bad situation with Star Citizen, $300 million game, and look at what we got, right?
Yeah.
How much of that $300 million has been spent on the current experience that you have now, when 90% of it, or, you know, I'm just throwing the number 90%. I don't know at all what the percentages are spent on Squadron and this and that, right? So it's all the one thing that I would say is that there's always going to be predatory marketing in a game that is this like, without, for lack of better words, it's desperation, because they're not going to finish this game unless they continue to get backers. So they're trying to find unique ways to create new money streams out of the. I mean, come on, look at Star Citizen, dude. It is the same experience from basically 3.0 with unique twists on the same delivery mission or the same go and kill this guy over here mission. You know, with a little mining and cargo hauling sprinkled in. So how do they keep a money flow and keep the game alive without falling into that predatory area at times? So while I hate it, I see why it happens, is basically all I'm saying.
Right, yeah. And I'm not a person who is like, you know, oh, screw Star Citizen because they're making me pay $300 for a ship. I mean, like, I get it, you know? Like, I understand. But I'm, you know, they're already making cosmetics for ships. They're, you know, like, there are other things that you can do, other things that other MMOs do actively to fund their games that aren't as, like, you know, like
what? Just name a few. I mean,
okay. So, you know, like the cosmetics is an easy one. Again, the ship marketing they're doing is a very unique way of marketing, and it may or may not be predatory. But to pressure your audience or your consumers into making purchases based on fear of missing out, and this is a limited time thing. There's only gonna be one name for this ship. You better get it. Oh boy, it's it's coming. You're gonna miss out. Like that is, in my opinion, is flirting too close to that line that they're already getting scrutiny from a lot of the older community, from the ones that are kind of on their way out because they've been waiting so long.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe you even mean the older community in terms of age, like people that gamed pre-order, right? The game finished and you played it and you loved it and that was it. Nowadays, you're having every game is pushing pre-orders, and I think that this is one of their marketing techniques to push the pre-order of a ship. And I'm not entirely against it because it pushes that pre-order. And the thing for me, and I don't think, please do not take this as an offensive nature towards you in any way, because it's not meant that way. But if you feel that you have to purchase the ship because of that, because that they're putting those restrictions on it or whatever, or the fear of missing out thing, that's something that you have to look internally about and not them about, because it's their job to try and push the pre-order, right? That's literally what their job is. And
I'm more concerned with precedence at this point. Like, this isn't a big deal. It's just a name of a ship. It's whatever.
But the precedence has been there for years. They're just doing what everyone else does. This is not like a unique situation for CIG to try and push a pre-order with a unique reward for that pre-order. The one thing that I do not like is the push for concierge and the constantly giving things to concierge backers just because they're concierge. Like, they already get a head start on the game because they've spent $1,000+ on spaceships for the game, which is your upgrade path, and all these other things. But then we're constantly adding on to what a concierge gets when they've already, like, a lot of people have already been concierge. Like, we do not need to add any more onto these people. Full disclosure, I am far into the concierge program. So
you also
at
make
this
a
point.
living off of it, so
exactly. But I'm just saying, I am one, and I don't think that the rewards that they get are good. I don't think they should get any rewards. The reward they got is they got the spaceship early. There's your pre-order reward. Stop this.
Right. Your first the guy who's here, he mentioned that the focus goes away from supporting the project and more for, okay, I'm getting these benefits for this game. Like, this is okay. The most controversial statement that I could probably say is the pay to win. It encroaches more and more into pay to win, instead of I'm invested in this project. I got these ships, but like, I'm here for it. I'm here supporting this.
Sure.
And it's easier and easier to just lose sight of that and to get into, like, okay, when this game starts, I'm going to be so far ahead of everybody. My own org, and just fucking, I'm sorry, they own the Stanton system or something. It's I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't like. I'm playing more devil's advocate with you than anything, but it's I think people always see things as a slippery slope, but I think this precedent was set a long time ago, and when I saw this, I went, oh yeah, they're gonna push pre-orders with this. They're gonna create the fear of missing out with the names. I don't care, so I didn't care. And I didn't think anything of it. But then it comes up and it's finally here, and now everybody's screaming about it when they told you about it 4 years ago. You should have screamed about it then.
The fact that people are getting mad about, can I name all my ships Bob? Like, why are you not upset more that you're being pressured to purchase something? Like, I don't know. That's kind of weird to me. I don't really care either way, but I get the argument of, like, okay, well, some Chads are gonna name all of their ships like, one eye, and like that is, what if that becomes a meta? You know how stupid it would be if you're trying to do PvP and you get messed up because you're trying to track a target that you can't see, and it, just like,
what's gonna happen?
Throws a wrench.
What's gonna happen is they're gonna create a setting in game to hide unique names. And you're just going to see their ID numbers.
Yeah, that's
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I mean, honestly, I'm not even saying that I would disagree with that, but yeah, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
That's whatever. That's my main point there. Is
well,
just,
I think
you
it is a unique point that nobody really made, and I think it is a super valid point. Is like, are we really getting like, why are we getting mad about the ship names? We should really be getting more upset about the way CIG has been marketing for a long time, and how marketing seems to dictate the way the game plays, which is very problematic and has been forever.
Yeah, well, I'll make my way on over to Star Citizen Refunds Reddit, and I'll get out of your
yeah, man.
Get out of your hair.
Let me know what they think about the name changes.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm not even a part of them. I went there once and they just like booed me out. But yeah, no. Happy birthday, dude. I hope you have a great day, man, and I love your content.
Oh, thank you, dude. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, take it easy.
Have a good one. And our final caller. Our final caller is a special one. It's Jerry. Jerry, the former Star Citizen game dev. I always got to put that little caveat in there. So he's always going to talk from like a higher level. But yeah, kind of interested from a game developer standpoint what he thinks about this. All right, here we go. Jerry, you have 6 minutes. I just looked at the time.
Fine. I'll keep it short and sweet anyway. First of all, happy birthday.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
You're not old. Don't worry about it. My stance on all of this is people should just be able to call the ships whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
Have it so like only one person can call it the one thing. Let them use ASCIIs. Let them use leet speak. Right? Doesn't really matter.
Sure.
Don't charge people to change the names. When your ship gets destroyed, you lose the name. You have to rename it. Yeah, that's going to open up to people being able to snipe the names. But you know what? If that's just part of the game, that's just part of the game. It'll make you consider more about what you're doing. The last caller, though, said a point that I really disagree with. He was like, oh, CIG are essentially going to be pressuring people into pre-ordering these ships and having to buy them so that they can get the name before everyone. Like, oh, I need to get the MSR. I need to call it the Millennium Falcon before anyone else does, or whatever you want to call it. No one's pressuring anyone to do anything. This is a video game. This is the biggest first world problem thing I've ever heard. Vote with your wallet. Like, you don't have to buy the spaceships. Like, just earn them in game and call them something else. And I know Noodle has been doing a lot of this PvP training recently.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at all the screens and you see everyone's names. It's just as chaotic to try and call out people's random ass Star Citizen usernames as it would be to call out a spaceship name anyway.
Of course.
If you're that bothered about calling your ship Millennium Falcon, call it Millennium Falcon 64. Like, you don't need to call it, I need to be the only Millennium Falcon on the server, or Enterprise, or whatever. Like, that's life. It's just the way it is. And I don't see it being that much of a problem. I think people are freaking out over something that's not that big of a deal, to be honest. But that's just me. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. And that's the gist of it. Let everyone call their shit whatever they want. Give them all the leet speak they want. Have it so that only one person can have a single name at a time. And yeah, that's it. I don't see why people are getting so worked up over all of this. And yeah, it's like, oh, well, weed smoke a 420 is going to ruin my immersion in the video game.
He already does!
A lot of other stuff in the video game that's going to ruin your immersion. If you're running around in VoIP going, oh, I just caught a Pokemon. Yeah, great. There's no Pokemon in Star Citizen, right? Your immersion's going to be broken. It's a video game. Like, so the argument of immersion is a load of poppycock. Whoever's saying that can just get in, just don't even bother trying to bring that up. Like, you've got a little Nerf gun that you're running around Grim Hex shooting people in the face with. Like, have fun with your video game, right? Stop trying to take it so seriously.
That was my argument at the beginning. I really feel like if the video game was a video game that you can actually play and there was really engaging things to do for it, nobody would care what the unique name of your ship was, and nobody would be dying on this hill or even standing on it.
This isn't a hill anyone needs to die on. Why do you really care? So, like, unless you're in ship combat, right? Are you going to start caring about what your gun's called? Oh, I killed him with my, I don't know, the P4, which I have named
the Stormbringer.
Noob Destroyer 64. I'm like,
swords have names.
How much of the minutia, how in depth do you really want to go into this?
I have got an anime on my side, Jerry. That's the name of my
Someone
sword.
clip that. Jesus Christ. God and anime. Oh, dude, that's a good ship name. God and anime.
Yeah.
I was killed by God and anime. I love
Yep.
it. Like when you get it.
Dude, that's what I was gonna name my ship, and now somebody's gonna steal it.
Shit! Oh no! But like when you get a car, right? You get a custom plate for a car. That's registered. That's your custom plate. You can't have the same custom plate. And people have custom plates on their vehicles all the time that are goofy. Like Naruto runs 420, and they spell it with like the A's are 4. It's like that's in real life. And I know you were saying like think back to like realistic sci-fi, right? So I would say realistic sci-fi, like it's a real thing.
Yeah,
the
but
Rocinante.
Sure.
You care about the Rocinante. When it comes up on the scanner, it is the Rocinante. And that's all well and good. But this is a video game. So just let it be a video game. It doesn't need to stick to these pre-established rules of existing sci-fi, right?
Sure.
Like when you play World of Warcraft, it's not like, oh, we need to only call things gnomes and goblins and fairies because that's what's been established in fantasy throughout 50 years. Like, let them have a bit of liberty with it, and also just let CIG decide what they want to do with it and roll with it. Like, this isn't something people should be up in arms about, in my opinion. Like,
I agree.
There's bigger things going on.
I agree. But all right, Jerry, we will call it here.
Also, free Virgil. Free Virgil.
Yo, what is with chat today?
Virgil
This is crazy. I really do need to get him on the podcast. I should have had him on for the last one, but I just I'll tell you whatever. We'll talk about that off camera, but that's not a Cutlet and Moist made it on because it was in one group message, and I was like, hey, you guys want to talk about this? And that was it.
Stop spamming fuck Virgil. Fuck Zeus. Zeus is a terrible mod. Screw you. Screw
All right. I'll see you later.
Have an amazing birthday, mate. It's been a pleasure. Take it easy, bro.
Thank you. I lost. Where is it? Where is the answer the call section of the Discord? It's gone. Oh, it's at the bottom now. There we go. It got moved on me, so I lost it. All right, guys. So that is going to do it for today's show. I mean, I think a lot of people had some really good points, and I don't. It's funny. I think every point that everyone made was valid, even though some of them were over here and some of them were over there. And I think that's kind of what Zyloh pointed out in his post, is that this is really polarizing and they're not going to win anyway. So they're going to go the way that they want to go. And it's Chris's game, and he's going to make it the way he wants to make it. And yeah, there's positives and negatives to both. I think probably the best point was made in the Twitch chat from Brandon about players who purchase ships are getting a massive advantage over players who don't in that case. And that kind of sucks. But other than that, there's plenty of ways to work around it without using leet speak. And honestly, if the game was good, this really wouldn't matter that much anyway. So with that said, guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. If you're watching on Twitch and you missed some of the episode, I'll get it up on YouTube as soon as I possibly can. I've been having a lot of trouble getting these up quickly. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit like, subscribe if you are not yet, and if you want to support the stream, make sure you click the link below for our sponsored segment, I guess, with Star Trek Fleet Command. And again, there'll be a little QR code that comes up. Scan that with your phone. It is a mobile game. All you have to do is hit level 2 to help support the channel. And that'll do it this week. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next week.